Good evening. 26 people are dead and 17 remain missing after a Taiwanese passenger plane clipped a bridge and plunged into a river shortly after takeoff from Taipei. Emergency crews have managed to pull the submerged wreckage out of the river after rescuing 15 survivors. Many of the passengers were tourists from mainland China. One of those on board was identified as a Hong Kong ID card holder living in Taiwan. The plane narrowly missed buildings when it went down in a stunning accident that was captured on camera. The dashboard camera of a passing car captured the heart-stopping moment when the out-of-control plane clipped a road bridge before crashing into the Keelung River in Taipei. The footage shows the Trans-Asia Airways plane banking sharply and tilting fully to its side as it hits a taxi and then the bridge before plunging into the water belly up. Emergency crews swarmed over the partially submerged wreckage to rescue survivors. Miraculously, a handful of shell-shocked passengers were already standing in the cold water, waiting to be taken to safety. A child was among the lucky ones who managed to make it to the shore. Many were still unaccounted for as rescue teams, including hundreds of soldiers, worked feverishly to find anyone still trapped in the wreckage. The ATR-72 turboprop aircraft, operated by Taiwan's Trans-Asia Airways, crashed soon after taking off from a central Taipei airport in clear weather on a domestic flight to the island of Kinmen. Authorities said there were 58 passengers and crew on board, 31 of them mainland Chinese tourists, mostly from the city of Xiamen. That's believed to be the last communication from one of the pilots. It suggests there was a flame out, which is when there is engine failure because the fuel supply is interrupted or there is faulty combustion. This particular aircraft, according to Trans-Asia, was a French and Italian-made new model twin-engine plane that had been in service for less than a year. The pilot had nearly 5,000 hours of flight experience and his co-pilot nearly 7,000. Black boxes recovered from the site today are expected to shed further light on what went wrong. Trans-Asia Chief Executive Chen Xingde and his colleagues bowed deeply in a public apology during a televised news conference. They have plenty to answer for as Taiwanese regulators look at the airline's safety record. It's the second accident in a year involving Trans-Asia. In July last year, 48 people were killed when a flight from Kaohsiung attempted to land on Penghu Island in stormy weather. Here in Hong Kong, 7 more people have died from severe flu in the past 24 hours, taking the death toll this year to 118. Health Minister Ko Wing-man dismissed lawmakers' accusations that he was downplaying the severity of the outbreak. ATV's Alison Chan reports.
With the death toll from severe flu surging well above the 100 mark since the beginning of this year, lawmakers held an emergency meeting this morning to discuss their concerns. Business sector lawmaker Andrew Leung suggested that compared with its response to the SARS outbreak, the government was downplaying the severity of infections during this peak season, despite widespread public concern. The Labour Party Sit-Ho complained that the government was not giving daily updates like it did during the SARS crisis and could not expect people to be vigilant when officials themselves were being so mild about it. Health Minister Ko Wing-man rejected the accusations, saying he had been proactive in keeping the public informed through the media. He insisted the flu outbreak should not be compared with SARS. Ko stressed that the Center for Health Protection is closely monitoring the situation and may temporarily close schools hit by flu if necessary. As for wearing masks, he said it doesn't have to be mandatory, but advised those in high-risk groups to get vaccinated.
Those who call upon all the people to use a mask to prevent seasonal flu mainly consider the social distancing effect of everybody wearing a mask, which is more important than the protective effect of the mask itself.
He also shot down claims that hospitals are treating patients with Tamiflu instead of a more effective vaccine because they don't have enough supplies. Ko said the current flu jabs are still worth getting, and a new vaccine to tackle the mutated strain of the H3N2 virus that is causing most of the fatalities will be available by April. Alison Chan, ATV News.
Beijing's top representative in Hong Kong has warned those who advocate independence that Beijing will not tolerate any challenge to its authority. Hosting a cocktail reception earlier tonight, Liaison Office Director Zhang Xiaoming stressed that Hong Kong does not have full autonomy under the one country, two systems policy. He expressed the central government's full support for Chief Executive Leung Cheng-ying and praised him for his handling of last year's Occupy protests. Home Affairs Minister Zhang Duxing has assured lawmakers there is no cause for concern about the recent setting up of a youth group with the help of the PLA. He stressed that the SAR government and PLA are not responsible for launching it.
The launch of the Hong Kong Army Cadets Association raised plenty of eyebrows last month. Only the Beijing-friendly media were allowed into the PLA barracks on Stonecutters Island for the opening ceremony, attended by Chief Executive Leung Cheng-ying as honorary patron and his wife Regina as commander-in-chief of the military-style youth group. Pro-democracy lawmakers today grilled government officials on the controversy, raising concerns about brainwashing. Education sector lawmaker Ip Kin-yun asked if the PLA's involvement had violated the basic law, which requires China's military to stay clear of Hong Kong affairs. The Civic Party's Kwok Ka-ki bluntly asked if the Leung administration was trying to brainwash the city's youth. Home Affairs Minister Zhang Duxing dismissed their concerns, insisting that neither the SAR government nor the PLA had funded or helped put together the group. He explained that the opening ceremony was held in the PLA barracks simply because it was rent-free, and senior military officials involved were merely acting as consultants. The best way to prevent anyone from being brainwashed is to keep Hong Kong as an open society and ensure a free flow of information, he suggested. But the Home Affairs chief also advised the association to be more transparent with its operations from now on to ease public concerns.
Pan-Democrat lawmaker Ronnie Tong has warned that the opposition camp may become powerless in LegCo as it already looks like the government is ready for them to veto its final political reform package. Here's Emily Sue.
The Civic Party's Ronnie Tong has been under fire over the past week for declaring his pan-democratic colleagues lack the political intelligence to communicate with Beijing or become the city's next leader. Tong said this after the pan-democratic camp cold-shouldered his proposal to resolve the deadlock over political reform. The legislator had offered to support the government's final package of proposals set under Beijing's restrictive framework for the 2017 chief executive election, in exchange for a promise to abolish all functional constituency seats in the 2020 LegCo polls. Tong's stance suggested the government might be able to work out a deal with some of the 27 pan-Democrats who have vowed to veto the package. But he clarified over the airwaves this morning that he never said he would switch sides. What I said was, I am willing to convince the pan-Democratic camp, Tong clarified. Asked why he put his own colleagues down, Tong admitted he's not a very humble person and sometimes blurts things out without thinking. Now he's worried that the administration no longer fears the pan-Democrats' threat to veto the final reform package, and officials are prepared to deal with the consequences if it happens. That will be a big blow to the political power opposition members hold, he warned. He also reminded opposition lawmakers not to forget their ultimate goal, to achieve universal suffrage instead of just rejecting the framework set by Beijing. I feel they've swapped the two things around, he complained. Vetoing for the sake of vetoing, occupying roads for the sake of occupying roads, and forgetting about their ultimate political goal.
Overseas, Jordan has promised an earth-shaking response after the extremist group Islamic State released a video of a captured Jordanian pilot being burned alive. Its first move in retaliation was to execute 2 militants. Islamic State continues to shock the world with its brutality. Its latest video purports to show captured Jordanian pilot Moa al-Kasasbeh moments before his execution in an unspecified location. The pilot was captured last month when his plane crashed in Syria during a US-led bombing mission against the extremist group. His captors said he was burned alive in a cage. There was outrage on the streets of the Jordanian capital Amman following the news of the pilot's death. Jordan promised an earth-shattering response and acted within hours. Authorities there executed an Iraqi woman jailed for a deadly bomb attack in Amman in 2005 and an Iraqi man said to be an al-Qaeda operative. Islamic State had demanded the release of the woman in exchange for the lives of the pilot and a Japanese journalist. But Kenji Goto was beheaded over the weekend, and Jordanian officials believe the pilot was actually killed weeks ago, suggesting a cruel hoax by Islamic State. Jordan's King Abdullah cut short a visit to the US after holding talks with President Barack Obama. He hailed the pilot as a hero and condemned the militants, describing them as cowardly terrorists. For his part, Obama vowed to continue the pursuit of Islamic State militants.
We'll redouble the vigilance and determination on the part of a global coalition to make sure that they are degraded and ultimately defeated.
The shocking videos released in recent days are expected to generate more anger against the extremists, who have large parts of Syria and Iraq under their sway, as more Muslims turn against them. Sports now, and in football, Manchester United have reached the 5th round of the English FA Cup in their second attempt. ATV's Anne Jeng reports.